Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. I've been married to my husband, Clint, for the past 6 years, and together we have a wonderful son. Clint is an incredibly hard-working man, and I admire how dedicated he is to both his job and his family. We are both fortunate to have good incomes, but we handle our finances differently. I take on the responsibility of paying for our mortgage and making sure all the household bills like electricity, water, and internet are covered. Meanwhile, Clint takes care of our son's expenses, such as school fees, clothing, and anything else he needs. He also pays for our car loan, and on top of that, sends money to his parents every month. Clint's parents are retired, but they don't have any savings to rely on. He is their eldest child, and they also have 2 daughters. Unfortunately, financial stability was never something his parents had, and over the years, whatever money they did have was spent on covering hospital bills and paying for their daughters' weddings. Now, they are left with nothing, which is why Clint has stepped in to support them. He makes sure they have enough money for their daily needs, groceries, and medical checkups whenever necessary. His sisters, on the other hand, do not contribute at all. Instead, they take advantage of their parents by treating them like free babysitters, leaving their children with them for hours without offering any financial help. Despite this, it is always Clint who steps up, making sure his parents are taken care of, while his sisters continue to benefit from their generosity without giving anything back. I also do my part in helping Clint take care of his parents. Every weekend, I make sure to visit them, checking in to see if they need anything, and spending time with them. I always make it a point to stock their fridge with fresh groceries, so they never have to worry about running out of food. I also help my mother-in-law with her garden, which I know she loves dearly. It's something she takes pride in, and I want to support her in keeping it beautiful and well-maintained. Beyond just helping with their daily needs, I also try to give my mother-in-law some time to relax and feel pampered. Every month, I take her out for a spa day and a massage just so she can unwind and enjoy herself. I believe she deserves it, after all these years of working hard and taking care of her family. Out of all their children, I genuinely feel that Clint and I have done the most for his parents. We don't just provide financial support. We actively try to make their lives easier and more comfortable. But despite everything we do, Clint's parents seem to have a special soft spot only for his sisters. No matter how much we help them, they always prioritize their daughters. They even use the money Clint sends them to buy gifts for their other grandchildren while barely acknowledging our son. Every Christmas, this becomes even more obvious. While they go out of their way to buy expensive gifts for their daughter's kids, they never put in the same effort for our son. One year, all he got from them was a pair of socks. Clint and I have both noticed this for a long time, but we choose to stay quiet for the sake of keeping peace in the family. We don't want to create unnecessary drama, but it does hurt knowing that our efforts go unappreciated while his sisters, who do the bare minimum, are favored. Then last year, something changed with my father-in-law. He started making new friends, other retired men from his neighborhood. Whenever I saw him, he would excitedly tell me about the things they were teaching him. He said they were showing him how to invest and even encouraging him to start his own business. He seemed really eager about the idea, and I genuinely thought it was a great thing. I encouraged him, believing that having a project of his own would keep him busy and engaged. I figured it would be good for his mental well-being, something that would give him purpose and prevent him from feeling aimless in his retirement. Little did I know what was really coming. Recently, my father-in-law came to Clint and me with a serious request. More like a demand. He told us that he had finally solidified his business idea and now needed a large sum of money to get things off the ground. He made it clear that he expected our full support in making his vision a reality. Naturally, I was curious and asked him what kind of business he was planning to start. But instead of giving us any details, he brushed off my question. He said he wanted to keep it under wraps so that no one else would steal his idea. That immediately struck me as odd. If he was so confident in his plan, why wouldn't he even give us a general idea of what it was? Then he dropped the real bombshell. He wanted us to give him $10,000. Clint and I were completely taken aback. That wasn't just a small favor, it was a huge amount of money. Clint tried to explain that we didn't have that kind of cash just lying around, but my father-in-law quickly dismissed that, calling him stingy. He became defensive and emotional, insisting that we should trust him. "Don't you trust me? I am your father. Do you think I would ask you for this money if I didn't know what I was doing? Just trust me and give me the money, and I promise I'll pay you back 3 times over," he said confidently. Clint looked surprised, but gave a hesitant nod, as if he was actually considering it. Meanwhile, I sat there in disbelief. Something about this whole situation felt incredibly suspicious. My father-in-law had been retired for years, and even before that, he had never really held a stable job. Now, out of the blue, he had a supposedly brilliant business plan, but wasn't willing to share any details. And on top of that, he was promising an almost unbelievable return on investment. It all sounded way too good to be true. I told my father-in-law that any savings Clint and I had were built together. And since my husband already had a lot of financial responsibilities, I was the one who contributed the most. If he was asking us to take out such a large sum of money to invest in his business, we needed some kind of assurance. I made it clear that if he wasn't comfortable sharing the details of his business plan, that was his choice. But in that case, we would need proper paperwork to ensure that this money would be repaid to us in the future. The moment I said that, both Clint and his father looked deeply offended. My father-in-law's face turned red with anger, and he immediately started yelling. He couldn't believe that I would ask him to sign something just because he was borrowing money from us. He said that I should have that kind of trust in him, and demanding paperwork was nothing short of an insult. To my shock, Clint sided with his father. He told me that he trusted his dad completely, and that since we could afford to give him $10,000, it shouldn't be something we were fighting about. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Yes, we were financially stable, but that didn't mean we could just throw away such a large amount without any security, I argued with Clint, telling him that our savings weren't just his to give away. That money was meant for our future, and more importantly, for our son's future. We both worked hard to build it, and he had no right to treat it like his personal fund to hand out without my agreement. If he wanted to help his father, we could discuss it properly, but expecting me to just hand over our hard-earned money without a second thought, that wasn't the kind of person I was. Clint was deeply offended by my response. He raised his voice, accusing me of doubting his father and acting as if I was insinuating that his dad was trying to steal from us. I remained calm and told him that I never said anything like that. I was simply being practical. If I were to lend such a large sum of money to anyone, I would need some form of assurance that it would be paid back. I pointed out the facts. My father-in-law had never repaid us for anything in the past. And now, out of nowhere, he was suddenly starting a business. What proof did we have that this business would succeed? What guarantee did we have that we wouldn't just lose the $10,000 completely? But despite my logical reasoning, neither Clint nor his father were willing to listen. They kept pressing me, saying that I was being distrustful and that I should have more faith in them because we're family. They made it seem like I was the unreasonable one simply because I wanted to be cautious. Then things took an even worse turn. My father-in-law, clearly angry, exploded with frustration. He shouted that back in his day, women weren't even consulted on these matters, and he didn't understand why I was interfering. He made it clear that he believed this should be a discussion between men and that I had no place questioning him. He then turned to Clint and said something that truly disgusted me. He told him that he needed to keep his wife in the reins and not let me get involved in such things, as if I were some unruly horse that needed to be controlled. At that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect. And clearly, I wasn't getting any. I found my father-in-law's words highly insulting, "not get involved," as if I needed permission from my husband. I wasn't just going to sit there and accept that kind of disrespect. especially when he was the one coming to us asking for money. I looked him straight in the eye and told him exactly what was on my mind. I reminded him that he was the one begging for our money. Yet, he had the audacity to insult me. Just because I was a woman, I made it crystal clear we would not be giving him a single penny. And if Clint wanted to help his father, he would have to find that money on his own. Our savings belonged to both of us, and Clint had no right to withdraw any of it without my agreement. The moment those words left my mouth, my father-in-law completely lost it. He started yelling at me, throwing accusations left and right, as if I had personally wronged him. Clint didn't look any happier. His face was tense, and I could tell he was furious. However, instead of pushing the argument further, he tried to calm his father down. He asked him to give us some time and reassured him that he would talk to me. That seemed to pacify my father-in-law a little, and eventually he stormed out of our house. But once he was gone, all hell broke loose between Clint and me. We had one of the worst fights we've ever had. He accused me of being rude, cold, and mean for refusing to help his father. He felt that I had embarrassed his dad and disrespected him by flat out saying no. But I saw things differently. I told Clint that his father was taking advantage of us using our hard-earned money without a second thought, refusing to provide any details, and even resorting to insults when I didn't immediately agree. How was I supposed to trust someone who wouldn't even tell us what the business was about? I can tell Clint is completely torn between me and his father, but at the same time, I feel completely alone in this. Instead of seeing things from my perspective, he is making me out to be the villain just because I refuse to be blindly manipulated. And honestly, that hurts more than anything. So, Reddit, am I an a-hole? Not a-hole. OP's father-in-law isn't looking for help. He's looking for a personal ATM he can emotionally manipulate. And OP's husband is letting him. OP is not greedy. OP is the only financially responsible adult in that house. The fact that he demanded $10,000 without giving any information and then insulted OP when she asked for basic transparency tells OP everything she needs to know. This wasn't a business. This was a setup. Good for OP for standing your ground, because if she hadn't, that money would have vanished and he would have come back demanding more. And now let's hear community's opinion. Your husband moving out to teach you a lesson is honestly terrifying. That's not love, that's manipulation. He sided with his father after the man disrespected you, belittled you, and said you shouldn't be involved in decisions about your own money. And then he punished you for not giving in. No, absolutely not. You're not his wife to him. You're the person he expects to quietly bankroll his entire family. Stay strong, OP. You're the only sane one in this mess. Girl, you have been carrying this entire family on your back. His parents, his sisters, their kids. Everyone stocking their fridge, paying their bills, doing the emotional labor, giving his mother spa days, keeping the household afloat, saving for the future. And this is the thanks you get? Them calling you greedy while asking for $10,000 with zero explanation? The audacity is unbelievable. Honestly, I wouldn't give that man $10, let alone $10,000. You deserve appreciation, not abuse. Everyone is focusing on the money, but I'm focusing on the misogyny. The way your father-in-law spoke to you, saying this is between men, telling your husband to keep you in the reins. That's disgusting, and your husband didn't shut it down. That right there is the real red flag. If he respected you, he would have walked his father out the moment those words left his mouth. Instead, he yelled at you. This marriage has deeper issues than money, and you saw them clearly. I'm proud of you for defending yourself. Update 1. I know for a fact that my father-in-law is not someone to be blindly trusted, and I'm honestly relieved that I trusted my instincts and stood my ground. If it had been up to my husband, that $10,000 would already be in his father's hands by now with no questions asked. The truth is, Clint is completely under his parents' thumb. He does everything they ask of him without hesitation, no matter how unreasonable it may be. His father knows exactly how to manipulate him, playing on his sense of duty, guilt, and loyalty. So, he always comes to Clint when he needs money. Not once has he ever asked his daughters for financial help, and there's a clear reason for that. He knows they wouldn't give him a dime. Unlike Clint, They don't feel the pressure to be the provider, and they certainly don't let themselves be guilt-tripped into handing over money. But my husband, he's an easy target. Father-in-law knows he can rely on Clint to step up every time, no matter how much it inconveniences us. And that's exactly why I had to put my foot down, because if I didn't, this cycle would never end. Update 2. Lately, my husband and I have been fighting more than ever. The tension in our home is unbearable, and it's all because of the relentless pressure his father is putting on him. Every single day, Clint is bombarded with calls and messages urging him to give his father the money. And now, to make matters worse, his mother and sisters have also gotten involved. Instead of acknowledging that $10,000 is a huge amount, and that we have every right to think things through, they keep telling Clint that as the oldest son, it's his responsibility to provide for their father's business venture. No questions asked. And if that wasn't enough, they have also started attacking me. They keep calling me greedy and a gold digger, as if I'm the one selfishly keeping money for myself, when in reality, I'm just trying to protect our family's future. According to them, I'm trying to ruin the family's unity by refusing to support my father-in-law's unreasonable demand. The worst part is that all of this is starting to get to Clint. I can see it happening little by little. The guilt, the pressure, the emotional manipulation, it's wearing him down. He seems to be getting brainwashed by them, slowly convincing himself that they're right and that I'm the one being unfair. It's like I'm losing him to his family. And no matter how much I try to reason with him, they keep pulling him further away. Clint keeps insisting that we should just give his father the money and think of it as a one-time investment. He argues that whether we get the money back or lose it entirely, it doesn't really matter. He just wants to get this over with and make his father happy. But I completely disagree. I have told him over and over again that I am not comfortable with that. We are not his family's personal cash cow, and I am beyond sick and tired of them always looking to us whenever they need money. It's never ending. They take and take, and when we finally say no, we're the villains. At this point, I knew I couldn't just sit around and hope Clint wouldn't make a reckless decision. I needed to take action. So, as a precaution, I withdrew all my share of the money from our joint account. I didn't do this lightly, but I couldn't take the risk. Unlike my husband, I was the one who had contributed the most to our savings so far. I had worked tirelessly to build up that financial cushion, not just for us, but for our child's future, for emergencies, for stability. I wasn't about to let all of that be drained away because his family saw us as their personal ATM. If I had left the money there, I knew exactly what would happen. Clint's father and sisters would keep pressuring him, wearing him down bit by bit until he finally caved. And once he gave them money, it wouldn't stop there. They would keep coming back, demanding more, making up more excuses, pulling him in deeper. There was a very real chance that Clint, still desperate for their approval, would hand over every last dollar behind my back. I couldn't allow that to happen. Now, at least I have control over my share. I know that the money I worked for is safe, and if Clint still wants to give his father money, that's on him. He'll have to find his own way to do it without sacrificing the financial security that I've worked so hard to build. Update 3. It's been a few days, and just as I suspected earlier, Clint did go behind my back and try to withdraw $10,000 from our account, but realized that I had already taken out my share. He was absolutely furious with me and kept yelling that his family had been right about me all along. He claimed that as the head of the family, he had the right to decide what to do with our money, and I had no business going against him. We kept arguing, the fights growing worse each day. Then, in what he called an act of retaliation, Clint decided to move out. He packed his things and left, telling me that he needed to teach me a lesson about family ethics. It was like a slap in the face. This was the man I had built a life with, the man I had loved, supported, and stood by for years, the man I had sacrificed for. And yet, when the moment came to choose between his parents and his wife, the woman who had done more for them than his own sisters had, he chose them. I am heartbroken. I have spent years treating his family as my own, doing everything I could to care for them financially, emotionally, and physically. And yet here I am being punished simply because I have refused to hand over a massive sum of money that we may never see again. But the more I think about it, the clearer things have become. Agreeing to give them $10,000 just doesn't sit right with me. No matter how much pressure Clint and his family put on me, I know deep down that I am not wrong. I am standing up for myself and for my kids' financial future. So, if Clint wants to break up our family over this, if he truly believes that walking away from his wife and child is the right thing to do, then I won't stop him. That's his choice to make. But I refuse to let myself be manipulated or guilt-tripped any longer. If standing my ground means losing him, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, I deserve a partner who values me just as much as I've valued him. Update 4. It's been 2 months since my last update. For those who have been asking, my husband is still staying with his parents and has refused to come back home. It seems like he has completely settled in with them, and despite everything, he has made no effort to reconcile with me. However, when it comes to our son, he still makes time for him. He visits every other day and spends time with him, which I appreciate. At least he hasn't abandoned his role as a father. As for our relationship, we don't talk anymore. Not about us, not about our marriage, nothing. The anger he felt that day when I refused to hand over the money seems to have not faded. It's as if he's holding on to some grudge, refusing to acknowledge that I had every right to stand my ground. But then yesterday, out of the blue, he called me. At first I was surprised. We hadn't spoken in weeks, so my immediate thought was that something had happened to our son. Since it was his day to have him, my heart started racing, and I quickly picked up, preparing for the worst. But what he said next caught me completely off guard. He sounded really upset during the call, and for the first time in months, his anger wasn't directed at me. He told me that he had recently discovered the real reason why his father had been so desperate for the $10,000. It wasn't for a business. In fact, there is no business. Instead, he found out that his sisters had been pressuring father-in-law to buy them a family vacation house. According to them, having a vacation home would be a good investment for their kids, a place where the family could gather and make memories. But of course, neither of them wanted to contribute a single penny toward it. They had no interest in paying for it themselves. So they convinced their father that it was his responsibility to make it happen. And father-in-law, instead of telling them no, turned around and tried to get the money from us. Brian admitted that if we had given father-in-law the money, he would have come back asking for even more. The $10,000 wouldn't have been the end of it. It would have just been the beginning. He would have continued coming up with excuses, hiding behind his fake business idea until enough money had been collected to pay for the vacation house. I felt a mix of emotions hearing this: anger, frustration, and most of all, validation. Everything I had suspected was true. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't being selfish. I was simply the only one who had seen through the manipulation from the very beginning. And now Brian finally saw it too. He sounded genuinely upset during the call. His voice was tense, and for the first time in months, he actually sounded remorseful. He apologized to me, something I honestly never expected to hear after everything we had been through. His tone was different this time. There was no anger, no defensiveness, just regret. Brian admitted to me that he had already given his father some money. Before discovering the truth, I could hear the frustration in his voice as he explained that he had truly believed his father's story, that he thought he was doing the right thing by supporting what he assumed was a genuine business venture, but he had been lied to. After confronting his father about it, he was really shaken. He told me he felt betrayed, humiliated, and disgusted by the manipulation. He admitted that I had been right all along, that I had seen the warning signs, that I had protected our money, and that he should have listened to me from the very beginning. His voice was hesitant, almost uncertain, as if he knew exactly how much damage had been done, but was still holding on to the hope that things could go back to how they were. He told me that after realizing how deeply his family had manipulated him, he couldn't bear to stay with him any longer. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that his own father had used him, it had shattered something inside him. He admitted that he felt ashamed for believing them so blindly, for allowing them to turn him against me. He said that staying in that house under the same roof as the people who had lied to him and pressured him into sacrificing his own marriage was becoming unbearable. He didn't want to be around them anymore. He wanted to come home. But for me, it wasn't that simple. I took a deep breath, letting his words sink in a few months ago. I would have done anything to hear him say this, to hear him acknowledge what he had done, and finally see the truth. But now that the moment was here, I didn't feel the relief I thought I would. Instead, I felt anger, hurt, disbelief. I told him exactly what had been weighing on my heart. When you walked out of our home to stand by your parents, you broke my trust. It wasn't just the act of leaving. It was everything else that came with it. It was how he had dismissed my concerns, how he had let his family insult me over and over again, how he had painted me as the villain just because I refused to be taken advantage of. It was how he had made me feel like an outsider in my own marriage, as if my opinions didn't matter, as if my financial contributions and sacrifices meant nothing. And now, after months of choosing them over me, after watching me suffer through the humiliation of being called a gold digger and someone who was breaking up the family, he suddenly wanted to come back. It didn't sit right with me. I told him I wasn't ready to just forgive and forget. I told him that he had made his choice when he left. Now it was my turn to make mine, and before I could even think about letting him back into my life, I needed time. Time to process, time to heal, and time to decide whether this marriage was even worth saving anymore. Update 5. This decision hasn't come easily. It has taken months of self-reflection, therapy, and exhausting conversations with Brian to finally reach this point. But after everything that has happened, I know now our marriage cannot be saved. When Brian first asked to move back home, I didn't immediately agree. I was still deeply hurt by how he had treated me, by the fact that he had sided with his parents over me, allowed them to insult me, and abandon our home just to prove a point. But a part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, we could fix things. So for the past 2 months, we tried. We went to marriage counseling. I sat across from him in session after session, pouring my heart out, trying to make him understand just how much he had hurt me. I explained how his doubts, his blind loyalty to his father, and his complete disregard for my feelings had shattered my trust in him. I told him how humiliating it was to be labeled a gold digger by his family, all while I had been the one carrying the bulk of our financial responsibilities. I told him that if we were to move forward, things had to change. We needed to cut his family off financially. No more being their safety net. No more bailing them out every time they mismanaged their lives. No more sacrificing our future for people who only saw us as a bank. We needed to set clear boundaries. That meant going low contact, not completely cutting ties, but putting much-needed distance between us and his manipulative family. But Brian refused. Despite everything his family did, the lies, the manipulation, the financial abuse, he still insisted that he couldn't abandon them. He said it was his duty as the eldest son to take care of them no matter what. Even though they had used him, even though they had disrespected me, even though they had nearly destroyed our marriage, that was my breaking point. I realized then that nothing would ever change. Even if I forgave him today, this cycle would continue. His family would keep taking from us, Brian would keep giving, and I would keep being the last priority. His family has still never apologized to me for all the horrible things they called me. I refuse to live like this anymore. I will not be in a marriage where my voice is drowned out by his family's demands. I will not be in a marriage where I'm expected to sacrifice my financial security for people who contribute nothing. I will not be in a marriage where I constantly have to fight to be valued, to be respected, to be heard. So, I'm done. I'm choosing myself. I have spoken with my lawyer, and I will be filing for divorce. Brian has made his choice, and now I'm making mine. I refuse to stay in a relationship where I will always come second. I deserve better. And this time I'm putting myself first.